Because people will look at what happened yesterday, and they're like, wow, my man Steph Curry is so good. He could be a professional golfer.
Easily.
Nope.
Mark, he's already been a professional golfer.
Great point.
It might have been the Nationwide Tour at the time. Now it's the web.com.
Yeah.
And now it's the Corn Ferry. I'm sorry. That tour's changed names so many times.
Nike Tour.
All of that and more.
Whatever that is now.
I think it was the Nationwide when I played with a guy named Max Homa. And Lo Neal and I launched him into stardom. You ask Max sometime.
Yeah.
He was nothing until he played with us.
I know.
Go to hell, Dibs.
I know he's your text buddy.
Yeah, we text.
Check in with him. Ask him if Steph Curry can make it on the PGA Tour.
You know what? I will,
Yeah.
and I'll see if he'll join us. Well, I guess it'll be like midnight across the pond because he's getting ready for the Open Championship, which starts in about 36 hours.
Yep.
But Steph Curry has been a professional golfer, and I don't believe he made the cut in the Nationwide is on your side, web.com Corn Ferry.
That is accurate. Look, he's very, very good.
He's all right.
And he's also not dedicating any time to it, or I should say not a lot of time to it. He is dedicating some time to it. But if you missed it yesterday, American Century Championship, which I've already been on record a number of times saying, I think, for my money, probably the most unique. I'm not going to say the greatest. The most unique fan experience event that I've ever attended, because the accessibility to stars from so many different sports all at one time, and then the ability to potentially play blackjack with them later in the night, it's different. It is different. And Steph, for the last few years, has sort of been in the B group. Like, oh, he's really good, and kind of compete and stay near, but he's not actually going to win the thing. And then the dude hit a hole-in-one on Saturday, and then he had this putt, courtesy of NBC yesterday on the 18th at Edgewood to win the whole banana.
Well, Steve, I guess Steph's got a shot at a buzzer beater here.
Yes, he does.
Time's running off the clock. Time to put up a shot.
He's done it plenty of times in his career. Again, Marty Fish has a par putt from a few feet away, but that doesn't matter if this goes in. This putt is for 6 points. And it would give Steph Curry his first ever American Century Championship victory.
So he has been a thrill machine his entire career on and off the golf course. Can he do it again?
In the hole! He's got a chance. Oh, it goes in! And Steph Curry is the winner.
All right. Okay. One of the voices you heard there on NBC was Peter Jacobson. He'll join us next hour. I just looked at this and his whole weekend. It went from this curling crazy putt that he made, I think on Friday, the hole-in-one on Saturday, this putt and the win and the hug to Aisha, and he's bouncing Cannon around on the 18th green. And I just looked at this and I went, my God. You know when people, whenever you do something great, oh, gosh, it's your world. We're all just living in it.
Yeah.
I think that phrase belongs to this man. Honestly, I've never seen anything like this. I've never seen a life that appears to be so smooth, so talented, so joyous, so free from controversy, so free from what the pitfalls in which we all seem to fall. I'm sure there's stuff. Because you don't know Steph Curry. We don't actually know the man and what's going on behind the scenes. But have you ever seen anything like this? I've never, and even go to the greats. Does Michael Jordan's life look this fun? I know he's richer. Does he look like he's having this much fun?
I think at the time, and it's hard to do this, but if we go back to Michael Jordan at the time, and let's just put it at the time where he won 3 championships and decided, I'm going to go play baseball for a year. Right. Now, this was before or right around the time where his father was murdered, and you started to get a look into what Michael Jordan did when he was off the court, and Michael Jordan was never the humanitarian or the philanthropic presence that Steph Curry is, but Michael Jordan was simply a brand in and of himself. He was part of making Nike what Nike has become. So Michael Jordan off the court, while maybe not as cookie cutter perfect, quote unquote, as Steph Curry, Michael Jordan, his life was was pretty sweet in terms of
Well,
the guy can do anything. He could go out and play golf. He was a good golfer, and he could go out and, he was running and playing poker and smoking cigars, and he played pro baseball. It's a little bit of a different personality, but in terms of like the charmed life aspect, he had a pretty charmed life at the time.
I don't even necessarily mean charmed. I mean, sure, we all want to be like Mike, but by the same token, I feel like when you listen to Michael Jordan talk and even listen to others talk about him, I mean, his most famous teammate hates him. Do you know what I mean? Like,
yeah.
Michael Jordan had a Hall of Fame speech where all he could do was rip other people. Like, there's nowhere near the joy. And I don't even know, like, whoever's life is better, it's not even about that. It's who's enjoying whichever life you have the most.
Joy is an interesting thing.
Steph Curry, it's like, what the hell is ever wrong here? What is do you have a bad day sometimes? Does it go to that dark space ever? I'm sure it does.
Yeah.
But you don't see it. You don't hear about it. You can't even talk to someone who's around Steph and have them say anything other than, yeah, that just smiling and happy and just perfect all the time. That's what everybody says.
And appreciative of, the fact that he had a definite leg up on the competition, being the son of an NBA player, and also humble enough to appreciate the gifts that he got from his mom and his dad, and the fact that he was raised by two loving parents. It never feels like he takes any of it for granted. And also he has an unbelievable sense of humility, Mark. It's like, you're the greatest three-point shooter ever. You're a 4-time champ, 2-time MVP, finals MVP, and oh, by the way, you're a unbelievably good golfer as well, yet the celebrations, when he makes the hole-in-one and he sprints to the green, and then he sprints back, and he's hugging every caddy, and he's high-fiving, and he's signing autographs. The way he carries himself is like a guy who truly appreciates how good he has it, yet he has the ability to not make it seem like he's rubbing our nose in it.
Yeah, it's almost hard to describe, but I'm looking at it through the lens of like what sports life has sort of either gone that smoothly. Sure, joyous, as I said, is a word that comes to mind, but just, it's that old question, if you could trade places with anybody, that gets a little convoluted. People want Michael's billions. Do you know what I mean? Like, for me,
Steph's not doing too bad.
Yeah, Steph making $60 million a year. You know what I mean? At a certain point, I'm like, it's just
plus whatever he got from Under Armour.
Well, I mean, that's the thing. It's like at a certain point, doesn't it just become some numbers on a spreadsheet somewhere? Like, it's not like any of these dudes need to worry about anything ever when it comes to finances, and that number's only going to keep going up for the greats of the game. But this thing it is just. It appears flawless.
Well, it's interesting.
I'm sure it's not.
Well, the word you used is joyous. And yes, I'm sure he has bad days. And I'm actually looking at one of his bad days when he played at the Ellie Mae Classic and he shot an 86 in the second round. And he was dead last, missed the cut by 13 shots. He was 33 shots behind the leader after 2 rounds. And this is 5 years ago. So as we get into this discussion with Peter Jacobson, coming up here in about half an hour, it's a question that I believe will be a resounding no in terms of can Steph play with the big boys.
I always, and I think some people get this, if you play, if you don't, okay. But like you played Old Greenwood up in Truckee over the weekend.
Yes, Saturday.
Right? And then now that course is getting ready for a professional tournament.
In 3 days. We actually were the last group to play the course before they shut it down. For the tournament that starts on Thursday.
And I'm sorry for bringing it up, but what'd you shoot again?
I'd have to go back and finish doing the math, Mark, because my calculator broke.
Okay.
I shot a 110, Mark.
And what do you usually shoot on just a normal round of golf?
I am a bogey golfer through and through, which means on a par 72, I'm right around 90, which means 85 on a good day, 95 on a bad day.
Okay. And
110.
You shot 110, in part because I'm sure you just didn't play well that day.
I stunk.
But Old Greenwood was set up for the pros. And by the way, it's one of these like lower level pro events that won't have a lot of the top players in the world.
The top players in the world will be over across the pond
Obviously.
at the Open Championship.
Right. So in other words, there's two kinds of golf courses. There's the ones they play, and there's the ones that we play. And they're completely different. So, and Edgewood, while difficult and set up for the tournament and all that, I've played it many, many times.
Whoop.
Sorry, I have.
No, it's a great course.
Knew a dude. Okay, but anyway, yeah, it's an unbelievable. It's my favorite course. It's incredible. It's an absolutely beautiful thing. It is a course where I find it difficult to, break 90. It's doable. It's doable. If you went and played where they're going to play the Open Championship this week, you and I would not break 100. There would be zero chance of us breaking 100. There would be zero chance of me not breaking 100 if I went and played Edgewood tomorrow. Whatever Steph just did, it's an incredible accomplishment. He did not the PGA Tour.
No.
It's a totally different sport.
Yes, and when I played Old Greenwood in the past, and it wasn't right before they were having the PGA Tour event, one year I shot a 91, one year I shot a 97. It's a tough course, but when they set it up for the PGA Tour and you don't hit it in the fairway and you're in what they call the rough, this is now 3 inches where you may not be able to see your golf ball. And so now, and these guys, they're still hitting the ball as far as they need to out of the rough, but guys like you and I, and more guys like me, I'm lucky just to chop that thing out of the cabbage. So Steph Curry plays at Edgewood, and he wins against a bunch of celebrities, and he plays great. He gets a hole-in-one. He makes an eagle to win it in walk-off fashion.
Walk-off.
He plays at TPC Stonebray in the Hayward Hills, and he goes 74-74 the first year, misses the cut by 11. The next year he goes 71-86, misses the cut by 13. So he's playing on those courses against the big boys, and he's more than a dozen shots away from even making it to the weekend.
And they're actually the little big boys. I mean, they're big boys, but they're not those big boys.
Yeah, you're talking about, players between 225 in the world and 400th in the world.
Here's Steph after the win yesterday.
It's very similar, just knowing, I have more time to think about it in this scenario. On the court, it happens a lot faster, but just being able to lock into the moment, knowing what the stakes were, accepting it. I've always dreamt of like a situation like this on an 18th green in front of a crowd like that to make a putt. And you just stick to the routine, have so much confidence in yourself, live with the results. Thankfully, it went in, which is insane. Been playing in this thing for almost a decade, and to know finally got a win, it's pretty special.
You know what? Listening to him talk right there from the ACC Championship, it almost is like I think about it a different way. And this is one of the things I find really, really impressive about Steph, because I'm a big believer in like goal setting. Right? Put that thing out there and then chase it and believe that you can go do it. What goal has Steph set that he's not achieved? At least the ones that we know about. I mean, he wanted to he wanted to be an NBA champion. Nobody thought that he was going to be the one on an NBA team. A little 6'2" soaking wet, 200-pound guy, and he becomes this iconic change the game type player. But then Kevin Durant joins, and 3 rings in, he's still never won an NBA Finals. He's being told that your dynasty is over. What does he do? Boom. You go out there and do it. He wanted to win this. He went out there and he did it. Again, I never make assumptions about someone else's family life, but my God, when you look at it from the outside looking in, does it not just look like the darn cutest thing you ever seen in your whole life? Right? I mean, everybody's just all over Instagram looking beautiful and having fun all the time. So I'm sure there's stuff. Every life has it. But I don't know that we've experienced something like this. Even the greats. Go through greats of the game. The LeBrons, you brought up Jordan.
Yeah.
Go over to the NFL, the Aaron Rodgers, the Brett Favre.
I kind of get a little bit of a bad
Tiger
rap.
Woods.
I had
Very
some off-course difficulties.
Hey, it's Tiger.
Thank you.
Example. It doesn't ever feel like this. I think there's
the one I thought of, sorry not to cut you
ahead.
off, but the one, not to cut you off, Peyton Manning is one that I thought about as a comp, because what he's done in the comedy arena and what he's doing now as a commentator and kind of a jokester, he strikes me as a guy who has enjoyed doing what he's done And even as a player, I mean, being a quarterback's a little bit tougher because you have to have that edge and you got to be a little bit of a tough guy. But he strikes me as a guy who's really kind of enjoyed his celebrity in many ways.
Good example. I do think though there were controversies that came up about some behavior when he was still at Tennessee. There were controversies that came up about PEDs showing up in a package at his house. Do you know what I mean? Like, even if they're quiet, Steph is one of the few, and I guess I could think of others but maybe they're younger in their career and they're not as big of a name. But how many is just like, there's never been a question. There's never been even
a whiff of controversy.
Well, even take Giannis. You know what I mean? Giannis was like, for a week, he was the biggest topic in sports media because falling in Game 5 at home in the second round was, quote, not a failure. And that became a big thing. And sure, people have had conversations about Steph being a product of his environment or what have you. But has there ever been this debatable conversation around Steph Curry?
Well, not in the last few years, certainly. I mean, before he became a champion, you could criticize him as, being fragile and he was unable to stay healthy with the ankle issues. But what he's done from 2015 all the way through now, even as you're talking about it, think about what he did for the Howard golf team, where he single-handedly funded that. And now he starts his own underrated golf league, and everything he did for mosquito nets for people in developing countries, and freshwater campaigns, and what he did with I think it's Eat, Play, Learn in the city of Oakland, which is funny because my kids were working at the recreation department in Oakland. Shout out my buddy Brett in Redwood Heights. Because he came in and gave all this money, they changed the way that they did their summer camp, and they made it a lot less fun.
Yeah.
That's the one thing that I would hold against Steph Curry. You ruined my kid's summer job.
Well, some people think he ruined the whole NBA. He's ruined everything for youth. You know this better than anyone.
CYO referee.
Youth basketball. How's that going since Steph Curry came on the scene?
If I had $1 for every little Johnny who dribbled behind the back for no real reason, it's like you're not beating your player and you're not going anywhere. I saw Steph do this. Well, I'm going behind my back.
Well, and the worst is when the kids are at the age where it's like, no, you can't even physically get the ball there from there. You can't get the ball to the rim from way back there. It is not only a low percentage shot for everyone not named Steph, it's a no percentage shot for you. But they're still taking it. Firing it up. I mean, Lil Jude's over at the park shooting threes all the time. He can make them every now and again, but it's like, why are you out there? What is that doing to your future in this sport that you go to the park and the only reason you go inside the three-point line is to go get the ball? So you can bring it back out to the three-point line and shoot it again.
He's got kids hoisting all over the place.
It's unreal.
I was thinking over the weekend, one guy we should get on the show is your buddy who played in the same tournament, Brian Bumgardner, friend of the program.
Yeah, did he play again this year?
Kevin from The Office.
Yeah. It's his favorite weekend. I'm sure he played.
He finished 80th, 1 point ahead of
Charles
Barkley.
Yeah. He is not a contender.
No, he's not. It's funny because I was looking at some wagers going in. Steph was 12-1 to win it. Marty Fish was plus 275. Mahmoda was plus 500. And Joe Pavelski was 8-1 playing with Steph in the final round. The other interesting one was a yes-no prop on Charles Barkley. Would he finish in the top 70?
Oh, that's
no was pretty heavy.
No. Yeah, that's a no.
Yeah, so.